Okay, today I'm in Kingston Lisle in Oxfordshire with Broadcaster of the Year, Luke Harvey.
only for another month. That's the worrying thing now.
For people watching in 2000 and whatever, he might still be. We don't want to date this interview. Thanks very much for agreeing to talk to me, Luke. We started with that. So, how did it feel?
Do you know what? I genuinely couldn't believe it. Dan Abraham, the photographer, phoned me up and he said, "No, actually, I saw him at Exeter Races," and he said to me, "You still owe your subs for the HWPA." I said, "Oh, I don't know, but that's something." And then he said, "Well, you've been nominated for Broadcaster of the Year." I said, here's the money straight away. And I couldn't believe it. This is how mad it is. I travelled up with my ex-wife on the train and a mate, and got up there, got to Paddington, went straight down the pub, had 2 Bloody Marys, got to the awards, had probably a good glug of wine as well, and then I just thought I had absolutely no chance up against Lydia Hislop, Ed Chamberlain and Ollie Bell. I just thought I was 25s and drifting, and when I won, I was literally speechless. I'm not sure beforehand that it really meant that much to me. I don't know, I never really gave it a second thought, to be honest. But to go and win it was a bit special. I was really emotional and did the typical me, got absolutely lashed afterwards and lost the trophy. And Rob Dakin, who runs at the races, he found it in a pub I couldn't even remember being in. So it was a great. It was a real honour to be voted for. And it's been nice. It's been fun.
And how did your peers and your workmates take that? Your victory?
Everything I do is looked upon as being a bit of a joke, really. But no, I don't know. I suppose. But people like, I tell you how I was really, really touched. Alistair Downs said to me, he said, I voted for you. I think you're an excellent broadcaster. You're a joke, but you're a joke. You're a great broadcaster. And so, when someone like that says that, someone you've admired from a young age, it does mean something.
Now, it seems that, right, you've just got this award, but you've been actually broadcasting for over 20 years. And then going back, you were briefly at the same school as me for a little while. You left at 16, back in Devon, in Tivy. So where did you go from 16 and leaving school?
Well, just very quickly, I'm the eldest of 7 children. So I ended up I was at Tiverton Comprehensive, as you know, one of the roughest schools you'll ever go to. We had free school dinners. I had a privileged upbringing, if you like, in the sense that I had ponies and what have you, but we had sort of, there were no luxuries whatsoever. We all had hand-me-down clothes, and I was horse obsessed from when I was 5 or 6, and that's all I ever wanted to be, was be a jockey. And so I'm not thick, but I'm academically, I got 1 English grade 3 or whatever it was, O level. So I got absolutely no qualifications whatsoever. So really, from when I was sort of 14 or 15, it was just a build up to when I could get away from the place and start in horse racing. I originally used to ride out for Jeff White, whose son Johnson is now assistant trainer to Philip Hobson, has been for donkey's years. And I wrote to a few different trainers, Fred Winter, Fort Warren and Captain Forster. Captain Forster was the only one that returned my message. And I met him down in Devon, because he used to go hunting down in Devon, and I met him down there. And yes, you've got the job, and away to go. 16 years of age. I don't think I'm not sure, I can't remember, ever spent one night away from home. And then I came up here. Sandy May, who's a very good jockey, rode in the charity race at Chepstow a couple of years ago. I used to ride for David Barnes. He drove me up here because he wanted to be nosy, because he used to work around here. And from there on, I was plonked into the hostel with 16 other lads, and I can tell you, I think I cried for the first month. I would say I hated it. I didn't like the food. Mum said I wasn't allowed to come home for 6 weeks because I had to sort of bed in, and it was unbelievable. So in the hostel, I was looked upon as very privileged because I actually had my own room. I didn't have to go in the annex. We had 4 doors down from me. There was Michael Caulfield, who's now a very successful sports psychologist. On the opposite side of the corridor was Richard Westrop, who works for the BHA, is a stipendary steward. We had all sorts of different people drifting in and out, and I honestly think I had no mortgage, I didn't owe 1 pence to anybody. Those days at Captain Forster's were the happiest days of my life.
I suppose people watching this now would be quite surprised to know that Devon and the West Country wasn't a hotbed of jump racing that it is now. So you needed to move away to get on.
Yeah, I just wanted to. I mean, there was David Barnes down in Kingsbridge. He was doing well, and obviously Martin Pipe. But yeah, no, it wasn't. As it is now. But when I came out here, there were lots of different people. I went into the yard. Hugh Davis was a stable jockey. Tim Thompson-Jones was the assistant trainer. Richard Dunwoody was sort of the next was up the ladder, and I was sort of just starting at the bottom. Carl Llewellyn, a guy called Adrian Rolls, he's now assistant trainer to Graham Motion over in America. So there were lots of big characters there, and as I said, it was early mornings, late nights. It wasn't long. I didn't used to drink, hadn't had a drink. I never have smoked, but going there was a bit of an eye-opener. I turned up on Sunday lunchtime and the lads had all been down the U-Tree and were absolutely lashed. I was like, what's going on here? But it wasn't long before I was about 10 times worse than them. So, I soon got into the groove. But, those were the days that gave me a work ethic, because however late you stayed out that night, even if you hadn't been to bed or whatever you'd done, you got up, you did your horses, you mucked out, and you rode out. You might have been in a bit of a mess doing it, but whatever happened, and I've carried that all the way through. Whatever I do in life, I get up the next morning, and I'm sure, looking back on it, those days were the days that really brought it home to me.
Now, you said there were 16 lads there. That must have been pretty disappointing for a young fellow with no lasses.
Absolutely gutted. But the captain was very, very regimental. He didn't there were no women, had no women in the yard. He was against that. Every single lad in that yard was either had a license or was good enough to have a license. We had people like Michael Furlong, who came over from Ireland. There were just so many absolutely brilliant riders. And Martin Bose used to come in sometimes. So it was just a fantastic time. And I went from, you can tell what I'm like now, but I went from being really quiet, not saying much to anybody, to being so gobby. One day the captain had a dinner party, and it was in March or something, and I was gobbing off so much that they stripped me off naked, tied me to a chair and put me in the middle of the road. And so all the captain's guests, Lord Chelsea and what have you, they had to slow down and go round this. And I think it was Lady Chelsea, someone went up to the captain and said, "Oh, we really won't. There's an old lady in a wheelchair in the road." It was cold, mind, it was cold. So they were great days, they really were.
So you started riding in point to points, if I'm right, in my research.
Yeah, I started riding in point to points. As I said, I started riding out for Jeff White Johnson's father down in Devon initially. Then when I came up here, actually funny enough, just up the road from where I live, literally a mile up the road, Colin Nash used to farm. And so every amateur at Captain Forster's, you sort of inherited the job. So in front of me you had Richard Dunwoody. His first ever winner was on a mare called Game Trust. He won a novice hunter chase at the Cheltenham evening meeting. And my second winner was on Game Trust at Lockinge point to point. So that's where I cut my teeth, riding all sorts of, around here. They had very good horses. My first ride under rules, you'll like this one, was at Fakenham. And the guy up the road, there was a choice between me and Richard Dunwoody, who was gonna ride the horse. So he said, "Oh, we'll have you up schooling the horse." So anyway, he went up schooling. Believe it or not, the lunatic wanted me to ride it in front of Richard Dunwoody. So anyway, it runs at Fakenham, and I'm still in front 4 from home, but it was an ex-selling hurdler, and it was just standing off at its fences. Anyway, it crashed out 4 from home, and the horse was winded, and I was stuck underneath the horse. Anyway, the lovely St John's ambulance lady came over to help me and undid my skull cap, wrenched my skull cap off, and with that, the horse thrashed out, kicked me in the back of the head and knocked me out. So I was absolutely fine before she helped me out. So I suppose I should have taken a hint then that my riding career was going to be up and down. But No, that's how I turned professional when I was about 18, I think.
So how many rides did you have in point to points before that?
Do you know? I don't know. My first ride was at Ottery St Mary, and the horse broke down. My second ride, these were the horses my dad had, freebies or lame ones or what have you. My second ride was a horse called Native Trail at the old Bishop's Lee point to point, and he'd run 2 or 3 times and fallen twice with proper jockeys on. And then I rode him first time and finished second on him. And I literally thought I was going to be the next John Frankham, Lester Piggott, Richard Dunwoody rolled into one. I just thought I'd cracked it. I was brilliant. And then I fell off the next 3 times or what have you. So it's a really good grounding and something I'd recommend anyone does.
So you made the transition to professional jockey. Was that a bit of a struggle to begin with?
I had an awful lot of rides before I had any success, but I wasn't riding. I was just riding for connections that I had down in Devon. I had my first winner at Taunton on a horse called Bickley Bridge for John Roberts, 33 to 1 shot. And I'll never forget it. John was very good to me. I used to ride for John Baker and after that Rodney Baker, and a lot of the smaller trainers. They really sort of gave me a leg up and got me going. And it was after a while that the Captain Forster then started using me, and to be honest, it sounds ridiculous. It was all pretty straightforward, really. I did well in point to points. I did well as a claimer. I can't remember what it was. It wasn't many winners that used to before you lost your claim, but within a very relative short space of time, I rode to Bernard Lawton win at the Cheltenham Festival. So it was all pretty good.
And is the hear about the camaraderie of the weighing room and all that sort of thing. Is that some sort of glossed over fairy tale thing, or is it actually what it's like, or is there some sort of real people that get the needle with each other there?
Look, you hear people say, "Oh, I miss the press room," and "Oh, the press room, it's great." Compared to the weighing room, it's rubbish because everyone's backbiting and talking about each other. In the weighing room, they're all they're like-minded people. You've got to be happy-go-lucky. You've got to be brave. You've got to be ballsy to do the job that you do. Every single person got on, and if there were any arguments, someone would you'd grab them by the throat, or you'd have a fight, and it'd be that. It'd be done. The weighing room was it's a pub without any beer. It's absolutely brilliant. I used to rip the jockeys to absolute shreds. I used to be changed next to Willie McFarland and Ian Lawrence. We also used to live next door to each other. Carl Llewellyn, who's like my best friend as well. It is so funny. We used to rip all the trainers to bits behind their backs. We'd go out laughing and joking. People say these days, "Oh, they look at, so-and-so goes through the form." I don't think we ever really looked, and there were no breathalyzers then, so we were hung over till about Wednesday, and then start drinking again on Friday. So it was the happiest days you could ever have.
Who were the biggest characters, established jockeys, when you first stepped foot in the weighing room?
Well, very latterly, I rode when John Franklin was just about giving up. I was just started riding, and I had a winner at Toaston. I remember him coming up to me. He didn't know me. He just said, "Well done, boy," and it meant so much. So, there was. I mean, Richard Dunwoody. That sort of Richard Dunwoody, Adrian Maguire. Latterly, Simon Neal, Peter Hobbs. all those sort of guys. And I used to go to a lot of the smaller tracks. So I used to go down to Plumpton, Chris Warren, Bangor Warren, and I had Ray Goldstein. There are just so many, around Plumpton and Fontwell and those sort of courses, and my beloved West Country. I remember one day, because I used to race on Boxing Day at Newton Abbot. I remember going down there. I had 6 rides. The first ride, as I'm getting on it, the horse was sort of walking forward. She sort of grabbed it and jagged it in the teeth, and as I'm getting on it, reared straight over and body slammed me in the paddock, and I lay for dead, and then some old boy came across with a rug and put it over my head, and my mum came, ducked under the rail and ran into the middle of the paddock because she thought I was dead, I thought, "Oh Christ," and I'm so mean, I was going to get up because I had 5 more rides. I was riding there, don't worry about that.